Believe it or not, the holidays are right around the corner. That means a lot of people and packages will be on the go.
And here to tell us what we can expect this holiday season is the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you.
Yes.
So let's start. The FBI director has warned of an increased terrorism threat to Americans as they travel this year. So how can people stay safe?
Well, the important thing to know is that from the FBI to the Department of Homeland Security, there are a lot of people making sure that Americans stay safe. And when events in the world affect the risks, they're all over that. Anytime there's a specific threat, that will be handled. But I got to tell you, I feel very safe getting on a plane, as I did in order to get here, and will do in a couple days to get back to where my kids are. And a whole lot of people, extraordinary men and women in law enforcement and military, work to make sure that stays true.
And speaking of flying, there were a lot of flights canceled last year. What's being done to improve conditions for holiday travelers coming up?
A lot. As you can imagine, at the Department of Transportation, we think a lot about how to make sure people and things get to where they're going on time. We put a lot of pressure on the airlines last year because we saw so many cancellations and disruptions, even on days when the weather was fine. And they've responded. The good news is this last year in the summer holidays, we saw some of the busiest travel days ever recorded and dramatically fewer flight cancellations than we saw a year or 2 years ago.
And some of the largest fines against these airlines.
That's right. Look, we are going to hold airlines accountable for treating passengers the way they ought to be treated. We've introduced a whole new set of passenger rights. I would encourage you, if you're thinking about traveling before you buy a ticket or after when you're getting ready to fly, go to our website, flightrights.gov. You can get more good information about what the airlines are required to do to take care of you if there's a problem that they're responsible for. We stepped up those protections, we've stepped up the enforcement, and we're getting results.
The other big thing about transportation this time of year isn't just people, it's also packages.
Yeah.
We want to get our presents to our houses.
Before Christmas.
Before Christmas. What's being done? How does that supply chain look like right now?
Well, this is why, upgrades to port capacity might not be the most glamorous thing to talk about, but they're a big deal. And it's one of the reasons President Biden pushed so hard to get this infrastructure package done in the first place. It's the most that we've been able to do as a country in a very long time to make sure our ports are flowing more smoothly, to improve our railroads and everything else that goes into getting things on time. Before that present gets under the tree, it has passed through a lot of hands, starting with, sometimes starting overseas, and then the workers who make sure that it gets off of the ship onto a truck or a train and eventually to your home. A lot of steps go into that. And part of that is what infrastructure is about, making sure that we have the ports that can turn around ships quickly enough. This was a big issue a couple of years ago. But remember, a couple of years ago, this time, in fact, exactly this time 2 years ago, we had all of those ships backed up in the West Coast ports. There were those images on the news of those ships waiting their turn. And there were some folks saying, I guess Christmas is going to be canceled this year. And instead, we saw an all-time record high in terms of goods moving through our ports. So a lot of work went into that. A lot of workers rolled up their sleeves to get that done. And we're going to continue pushing to make sure that goods move smoothly. It's important to our economy. It's even part of how we fight inflation, because when you see prices going up over the last couple of years, part of what drove that was shipping costs. Part of what's helping inflation come down now is that we've been able to work to bring those shipping costs down.
And let's talk about that. What's been accomplished since the infrastructure law was signed?
Well, we're really excited. We have 37,000 projects and counting that are getting support through the infrastructure law. Some of them will be considered relatively small. We'll do a six-figure grant in a rural community that will enable them to improve an intersection or change something they've been wanting to do for years, all the way through to projects like here in New York, where tomorrow I'm going to be looking at the Hudson River Tunnel, a massive piece of infrastructure that has needed billions of dollars of work for a long time. Hundreds of thousands of people count on it every day as rail passengers, and it's 100 years old. We're finally getting that done thanks to this infrastructure law. So, some of these projects can be done in one season. Some of them are going to take years. We're talking about a new airport terminal or redoing a tunnel like that, but they all add up to better transportation so that people and goods can get to where they need to be on time and affordably.
And communities that feel like they've been forgotten. for quite some time.
Yeah, some of my favorite travels as secretaries, you can imagine I spent a lot of my time on the road, is going to communities that were really wondering whether Washington even knew that they were there. And, you know, having grown up in northern Indiana, I know that feeling of being treated as kind of flyover country, as some people say. I've been to towns where we've been able to just transform their future with a good piece of infrastructure investment. In fact, in Indiana, on the other side of Indiana, in southern Indiana, there's a river port in a town called Tell City. That whole community has about 7,000 people. But 1,000 jobs there depend on being able to transfer what's called pig iron, this crude iron that comes in on barges up the Ohio River. And we were able to improve the facility that moves that in a way that's going to support those jobs. So it's very important to us that people in every part of the community, every part of the country, rural counties, the biggest cities in the country, and everything in between, know that these funds, these resources, these projects are here to make you better off. We don't care about the politics of it, red, blue, purple. We're here to make sure that you're better off through better transportation.
U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.